So I decided, or rather my Twitter followers and I decided, that what I would do to give everybody a break from the noise and the craziness and the fear-mongering and the nonsense was read a chapter of my book. And appreciating could do this in audio, but there's something about doing it this way that feels funnier. My book's rude. I'm not trying to flog my book either, because actually it's sold out. But I just thought it would be a way of us having a laugh and not talking about coronavirus or some other rubbish stuff that's going on mainstream. Anyway, I thought I'd read you the last chapter because it seems like the right way to start with a bit of finishing. And I don't know, I thought it might be helpful. So anyway, chapter 12, last words. And so, my friend, this is where our cosy chat ends. And funnily enough, I don't want it to be over. I dreaded writing this book because I have the tenacity of a dead rabbit and am about as far from a completer finisher as Stephen Hawking is from finishing a London marathon. That's really inappropriate. But actually, I've loved it. Loved spending my time with my own thoughts and sneaking away to write about bits of my life, long filed on a shelf in a box marked past. It's felt a bit like taking your phone into the toilet with you when you go for a wee, like 5 minutes of time to yourself, facing inwards, away from all the things in your life that pull you outward in 1,000 different directions, like your kids who need you to do something, or your husband who needs you to find something, or your boss who needs you to do his bidding, or your mother who needs you to hear that she's cross at the neighbour, or your friend who needs somewhere to park. It's been very much like therapy, awkward at times, like being made to sit in front of a mirror and just stare at yourself and say what you see, which is my idea of a nightmare, but therapeutic all the same. And I know how it is for someone reading all this. You know, I wonder what it's like. I feel embarrassed at the thought, kind of like waking up the morning after the night before and vaguely remembering an incident with a policeman and telling the kebab man he has a small willy. I prefer not to think about actual people reading this book, if any bugger actually does. I'm choosing to imagine that this is our little secret, just you and me, tucked up in the darkest corner of a pub somewhere behind a sticky table. I wonder if you're thinking, thank God that's bloody well over, as you see the end in sight and look forward to heading out the door of the pub, happy to be rid of that bloody whining old cowbag as you hot-foot it onto the night bus home. I wonder if, for you, this whole chat has been like one of those dreadful nights where you agreed to have a drink with someone you were never too sure about in the first place, only to spend the next torturous 3 hours remembering why you were never too sure about them, because they're a desperate, needy, narcissistic, deluded, paranoid, lonely bore and are about as good company as low-level chlamydia, perhaps. Maybe the experience of spending time with me has been like one of those nights where you meet someone you've secretly always found pretty funny or agreed with occasionally and thought it would be a good laugh to share a few wines with, and it turns out we've ended up sharing up a few bottles of Prosecco and 4 G&Ts and are now committed to being bestest friends forever and loving each other even though we only get to see each other once a year. I sort of hope it's the latter, but I'm honestly content if it's not. You can't write about yourself and demand people like the person they see. That's disingenuous from the outset. You can only speak your truth and share it. And if you are prepared to put it out there, then you have to be prepared for people to tell you it's a bag of crap. See Amazon feedback written by my secret Antifa fan club for details. As with so many things in life, you do have a choice. If you don't like being beaten up, you can sit at home on your sofa and shut up instead. And I certainly feel like it's been therapy for my soul, which is a bit of a red flag right there. Therapy is the preserve of my epic Jewish mates and Americans, and I'm neither. Even the word therapy suggests a situation in which you are trapped and bored shitless and wondering how the hell to get out before you fall into a deep vegetative state from which you might never recover. I have overshared, and the ramifications are that this oversharing will now be pulled apart and regurgitated here and there in the press to prove I am whatever grand malevolence I'm supposed to be guilty of this week. I accept this as my punishment. I also accept that I do not control the edit. Others do. You do. My detractors will extract whichever bits of this book they believe confirm the things they already think about me, and they may have a point. Because all of the things in this book, these words, this blah, 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 are my truths. This is the stuff of my life. The mistakes, the warts, brackets, genital and otherwise, the disasters and the triumphs, the lot. I hope that by reading it, some people will have found something helpful for their own lives, or perhaps found we have some things in common, even the things we wildly disagree about, which for many is about 90% of what comes out of my mouth. I hope it will give some of you the courage to believe you are right to have your own views, whatever they are, and that you are brave and beautiful, and what other people say really doesn't matter if you find the strength not to let it. Sometimes we all need help finding that strength and reminding ourselves that real life happens offline. Try to make like an arrow and feel the criticism whoosh past you as you fly ahead. You know, it's okay to read negative stuff about yourself. Being able to watch people write about how your nose is big, or you look like a lesbian, and challenge yourself to read things so dispassionately is a skill. You have to find the strength to step outside and to smell the air and realise that all those people walking down the road don't give a monkey's about what the hell is being said on Twitter or posted on Instagram about you or anyone else. It's all noise, and you have the volume control. You know how if you ask 10 people for feedback and only one person says something bad, that bad review shouts much louder than the 9 really good ones. Life's exactly like that. Get others to help you listen to the 9 voices. Train yourself to hear them. Listen to the 9. Challenge yourself to do something useful with the 10th. Process it. Recognise that someone is probably looking to detract from your strengths and put it in a box marked their issues. Other people need to own their issues. You don't. Don't carry them around or let them drag you down. I hope that some of the people kind enough to buy this thing have found it just a bit interesting, like looking into someone else's shopping trolley to see what size Tampax they take, or peeking into someone's kitchen window as you walk past. I hope that by looking into bits of my life and some of the stuff that has happened in it, they will see it's okay for us not to take ourselves or our jobs too seriously. And it's absolutely okay to laugh at ourselves a bit more than we do. It's okay for someone in the public eye to admit they're a bit hopeless sometimes, or have done some pretty awful things, to say they stole someone's husband or thought about taking out a hitman on their first, to admit that not all babies are actually all that cute, and some kids are downright feral, usually the ones called Destiny or Belle. Or that they were secretly okay when their granddad died because the last 6 months were so awful for their mum that they raged at the cruelty of medicine. Or that they wouldn't want a disabled child because they don't feel that they are that good a mum, or openly mock a man for having a micro penis. Maybe all that is just about being honest, and not such a bad thing as long as they aren't forcing their beliefs on anyone else. If my life were a house, I'd make a really crap estate agent. I'd have shown you round without buying fresh flowers, or I wouldn't bothering to make the kitchen look nice, or baking fresh bread, or turning on all the lights so that you think it looks homely. I've shown you the ugly, unattractive bits people normally hide, the damp, smelly bits in the corner, the ongoing row with the neighbours about my bush, or hedge if you prefer. I've shown you my dating disasters, my career nightmares, and the multiple times my big gob has got me into a whole world of pain. I've told you about being in trouble with the police and the court system, and how I even had social services call about the welfare of my kids, thanks to my detractors, and how I've waged war against the left, the system, the establishment, anyone to do with HR or compliance, the state broadcaster, and those too certain of their own importance. I've even told you about my epilepsy, the biggest battle of the lot. And you know, I feel pretty good about it all and about myself. I am just this, nothing more, bad bits and all, and I'm not too proud to show it or pretend to hide it. I am my most powerful me, unashamed, unafraid, and a little bit unhinged by the madness of life. And I'm certain about what matters. I am proud of my children and my husband, and of all the people in my country who love it and want the best for it, and the bits of my country that are great. This brilliant country is filled with people I love being around, who have different views to mine all the same, or who are happy to talk about them, to disagree over a pint and to end as friends, who can find the fun in the simple things of life and take the piss when they're hurting the most. People who would always stop to help you if you needed it, or come and defend your honour if that needed it, or leave a car park ticket in the meter if there is still an hour left on it. People who tell you when you did something well and call you out for being an arsehole just the same, or warn you that you're being a right twat and need to wind your neck in, or that in fact the new hairstyle that you thought was really snazzy in the salon actually looks like a bag of crap on you. These are the people I like to be with and belong to. These are my kind of Brits. It's not all pretty and polite. We all have a crap boiler, or a sister that pisses us off, or a kid that's too spoiled, or a dog that's too fat. We all have stuff that we try and hide to pretend to the world we've got our lives in order, or to pretend to ourselves so that our day goes okay. We don't all feel strong all the time. Sometimes we have to pretend while the rest of us catches up. I have spent many days doing just that. There are the weaknesses that allow us to get along with each other, even as we pretend we've got our shit together so that someone will employ us, or love us, or give us a mortgage, or lend us money. It's the weaknesses we share that make us stronger together. Which is why London and the Liberals have got it so wrong. They've created an environment in which another devastating kind of pretending has become law, in which not only must we never say certain things aloud, we must pretend we don't even think them. They tell us which thoughts are permissible and can be spoken, and which ones we must hide. It's now racist to observe how Asians love to stand in the doorway of the tube whilst they work out where they're going, oblivious to the 40 people behind them who just want to get to work. It's Islamophobic to say that Muslims aren't really that creative when it comes to naming their children, despite the fact that if I stand in a playground in Leicester and shout Muhammad, 4,562 children will come running. It's now sexist to say that women and men are not equal and should not all be paid the same, that no two people are equal and no two people put the same effort into the same job or achieve the same outcome, and that gender usually isn't the differentiator. It's officially